Palumbo here with another RX Muscle News update. Joining me today is my compatriot in crime, John Romano. John, it's become not weekly now, but every day another report. Victor Richards, a good friend of the show, has passed at 56 years of age. We don't have any information as to what the cause of death was. I last spoke to Victor about a couple months ago. I had him on the show. Believe it or not, for some reason, Victor liked me, and he only came on this show.
Yeah.
Last we spoke, he was a little angry, though, because he had that little thing going with Ed Connors. Ed Connors had said that he had fired a gun at the Gold's Gym Venice, and he was in denial of that he did that. And the reason I say something like that is because Victor Richards was such a larger-than-life character, and he was funny. He was probably the biggest guy, one of the biggest guys of all time. You know, if you got to put him up there with Ronnie Coleman at his biggest. And he was very polarizing. Some people liked him, some people hated him. He hated some people, he loved other people, and he was like the Kai Green of the '80s, wouldn't you say?
Physique-wise.
Or
probably.
even the way he pontificates and speaks.
Yeah, he was back in the day when I remember him from the '80s. He was pretty brutal. I mean, he was definitely one of like the guys that gave off the vibe in the gym that you better stay the fuck away from him.
Well, he told me he was trained by the Mossad. Did you know that?
I did not know.
He
but
had a friend.
I mean, but it was I wouldn't doubt it. He had like those eyes, man, and look, you would look at him between his demeanor, the look in his eyes, which was pretty vacant, and which is the most dangerous, and his just sheer size. He was a frightening person. I mean, he really was. I mean, everybody. He was just scary.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was. I would say he was probably bigger than Big Randy, wouldn't you say?
He wasn't very tall,
but
he was thick as fuck, man. He was just a block. He was probably my height, know, but huge.
Yeah, he's
look at that. I mean, come on.
When I see Victor Richards, I see Keon Pearson in his face, don't you?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Don't they look a little alike?
Yep. Yeah.
And Keon's like a mini me version of like Victor Richards,
Yeah.
With better.
Look at him there, man. Look at that.
I know. Well, that was, I think, FIBO. Was that FIBO when he guest posed up there?
I believe so.
Dorian Yates. People don't realize back in the day, everyone wanted to get Victor Richards to compete, and he wouldn't do it because Joe Weider was paying him a ridiculous amount of money to have him on the contract because he was like this mythical. He was like the mythical unicorn that everyone was,
He was, and. There's a couple of guys that'll always stick out in our history as the great hopes that we had that never made it. That never gave us, not never made it, but never gave us what they could have been. Rory Ledermeyer, Matt Mendenhall, Victor Richards, modern day Rully Winkler. Victor Martinez. I mean, we've had these guys that were just this close,
Lou Ferrigno.
Lou Ferrigno, but I don't know. Lou Ferrigno brought it, man, when he made his comeback.
Right, but I'm saying he would have been Mr. Olympia had he not done the Incredible Hulk TV show.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Without question, he probably would have been. He probably would have been the greatest Mr. Olympia ever.
Might have won 10 times, right?
At least, as long as he wanted to, he would have been. So anyway, Vic Richards belongs in that group of that amazing phenom that we were, drawn to because of just their otherworldliness, but they just missed it by like just a little bit, and didn't.
He made a lot of money though. He had his own. He found a niche for himself. Hey, I don't need to compete. I'm actually making more money by not competing because people want to know, well, what would happen if I competed? And he made up some cockamamie story about not having to validate himself to other people and all this stuff. But it was really a business decision, I believe. You know, from what I've talked to him off camera and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
you know, he was being paid very, very well. He was making more money than the other athletes at Weider. And Weider was giving him free advertising pages, which he was selling, like all the other guys
Which he was selling. Yeah, yeah.
So they were
now imagine if he came along, you know, now in the social media age. Oh my God. He would have been absolute superstar without question.
Yeah. He it's funny because he would out of nowhere just text me and he'd be like, I want to come on the show. I'm like, all right, let's get you on the show because I'm not going to say no to him because he's a character. He'd be like, all right, how much are you going to pay me? I said nothing, and so then I wouldn't hear from him for like a week or so. And then he'd text me again. All right, I'll come on the show. And this is the way it would always go every time he'd come on. And I said, how come you don't go on any of these other shows? He goes, oh, they're all assholes. You know, for some reason he just, I don't know. We kind of clicked. We had met way back in 1995 at the Nationals when they held him in New Orleans. I walked into a restaurant. Craig Titus was in the restaurant, and Victor walked in with a friend of his and basically was like lambasting Titus. Titus was shaking, you know, and Titus wasn't afraid of many people. But he was afraid of Victor, petrified. And then Victor just came down and sat next to me and said, that guy's a bodybuilder, pointing to me. You're not a bodybuilder. And I was like, holy shit. And I'm like, wow. Sit down. Yeah. And then that was it. And ever since then, we kind of were like friends. But he, you know, a lot of people are asking me what's going on. You know, look, we're losing all these people. And, you know, 56, he's in the same age category of a lot of these bodybuilders that are dropping, you know, John. And I don't know if Victor, you know, had COVID or not, or if he had the vaccine or not. People have been asking me nonstop. I don't know what the cause of his death is. But it seems like we're losing a lot of people. And you sent me a list. Let me see if I can pull this list up. These are bodybuilders that died, in the last year since the vaccine came out?
What I wanted to try to do was round up to see how big a spike this last year was by comparison to the other years. Yeah. We all agree it's a spike. We just don't know how big. And out of those 30 some odd people that I sent you there, I don't think the list is complete. I definitely left a couple off.
You left Leon Brown off the list, I see.
Leon Brown is off.
Victor Richards, Sean Roden, Jake Kazmarek, Wolfgang Schober, Jen Hernandez, George Peterson, Bob Bonham, Sam Roth, Billy Smith, Matt Mendenhall, Megan Elizabeth, Phil Hernan, Alina Cosanova, Orlando Galucci, John Meadows. I mean, Sophia Graham, Melissa Coates, Daniel Saxon, Annie Hammond, Laura Bass. I mean, I can read these. It's amazing. If you go to my Instagram, at least 50% of my posts on there are memoriams to people.
Right, right. The thing is, I'm trying really hard to try to put this into a perspective, you know, and just see if there is. Put it this way: we went through a long period with pretty much after Munzer and Benaziza died, that we had like 20 years when almost nobody died. Right. And then now all of a sudden, boom, we get this dump of insane number of,
which completely coincides with the appearance of COVID and the vaccine, right? So
it's a who's who. It makes it more notable because every one of those names pretty much is notable. Now, out of that list, you got to subtract the death by misadventure, the suicide, the cancer, whatever. And if what we're left with is an abnormal number of young people dying. Okay, coincides with COVID. Now I'm getting blamed for saying it's the vaccine. I'm saying COVID, vaccine and COVID.
Yes, because you know what? When you get the vaccine, you're getting a low dose of COVID, basically. I mean, the spike protein is the same. So if it causes problems in COVID, it could potentially cause problems in people who are prone just from getting the vaccine. And I think that's what people need to know. It's not the vaccine, it's COVID that's causing all this.
Exactly. And what is the other elemental factor involved? It's, I believe, and this is my opinion, everybody can pile on me if you want, hematocrit, hemoglobin, and hydration, i.e. diuretics. Okay? These COVID, both vax and the spike proteins elevate blood clot factors. of potential. Okay. If you're dehydrated just by not drinking enough water or taking diuretics, and if you have high hematocrit and or hemoglobin by virtue of taking juice, you are at a higher risk for a cardiac event, period. Okay. So all I'm saying is, if you guys are paying attention to COVID as a factor in your life, be it afraid to get it because you're around people who have it, or have been are contemplating the vaccine, get your blood work done and at least see what your hematocrit level is.
And I'm going to tell you, John, I can't. I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it again because we just lost another brother. Guys, fish oil is the greatest anticoagulant you could possibly take, but you got to take the right amount of it. You got to take at least 3 grams a day. Now, I have my product Omega-Lyzed, okay, which has the 3 grams of fish oil. It's got evening primrose oil in there. It's got another omega-7 fat that also helps with blood thinning. This stuff is so potent, okay, that when I had my first shoulder replaced, okay, I stopped all my supplements, nutritional supplements, 2 weeks before I was fine. The second shoulder, I forgot, and I stopped them at 6 days out. I needed a transfusion, okay, of 2 units of blood because they said they could not stop the bleeding.
Holy shit.
And that was at 6 days out. I stopped the Omega-Lyzed.
Wow.
When I had my thyroid removed, same thing. I wasn't bleeding quite as bad. But once again, back in the day before we knew about this stuff, John, and I used to take generic fish oil. When I had my gyno removed from Dr. Blau in the 90s, I almost bled to death. They couldn't figure out why they were cauterizing everything. They couldn't stop the bleeding. They had to take me and put me under and almost burn all the blood vessels around there because they couldn't stop it. Fish oil and vitamin E are the greatest anticoagulants, okay? If you take them every day, okay, you're not going to clot, I'm telling you. Or at least it's going to greatly reduce your incidence of clots. Now, if you have a clotting disorder, that's obviously another aspect. But most people don't have clotting issues. It's just that, like you said, their blood is thick because they produce more red blood cells. If they're dehydrated because they're on a low-carb diet, or they're dehydrating for a competition, okay, getting ready, that makes you way more prone to your blood sludging. So if you have this fish oil on board, okay, at a good dosage, what's going to happen is you're not going to be as it's almost impossible to throw a clot unless, like I said, unless something else is going on in the system. So
but I mean they should all. But I mean if you're,
it's an easy solution. It's a much better than taking a half a baby aspirin.
It is absolutely one of the most cogent prophylactic things you could do. Okay, but I think also if you're in that group and you're contemplating getting vaccinated because you got to travel or whatever, it's going to make it easier, like Lee Priest had to do, okay? Or are around people who are sick, get your fucking blood work done and at least know what your hematocrit level is. If you could dump a pint if you had to thin things out, plus the fish oil, plus stay hydrated, don't take diuretics. These are things that could save your freaking life. But everybody wants to say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist." Everybody's rubbing their hands together and licking their lips, hoping it's the freaking vaccine. It's a bunch of fucking bullshit, and you're an asshole and an idiot for inferring it's just stupid fucking thing. What I'm talking about is public service. This is real. So we have the bodies. Do you remember? Show me the bodies. I'm showing them to you. We have them now. Pay attention. Pay attention to what Dave just said and what I just said. And don't fucking walk into this like a blind idiot because you're following some freaking edict.
And you know what the truth is, John? And I hate to say this. It's my philosophy from day one, and people making fun of me. I haven't gone to any shows. I'm staying as secluded as I can, sequestered as I can, meaning that I go out to restaurants and I go out to the gym, but I don't hang out in big convention halls with millions of people where I know I'm going to be taking pictures with everyone and all over everyone.
Right.
I'm reducing my risk. I don't want to take the vaccine. That's my own choice. I decide because I don't want to be that statistic, and I'm trying to stay away from people. And you know what? With today's world of social media, you can make a great living with your YouTube channel, with your Instagram. You can do your own videos. You don't have to go to shows, okay, for now. Until this thing blows over, and I think it will. I think we're coming down from it. I think I think we're going to see it start to taper off, and the cases are going to go way, way, way down.
Yep.
I predict 6 months, okay? But once that happens, you can go out and go back. But if you're not competing, or you don't have to compete, or you don't have to go to a show, try to stay away from crowds, okay? Because you can get COVID, okay? You can get COVID even if you're vaccinated. We see it all the time because COVID is not a vaccine. The COVID vaccine is not a vaccine. It's an immune enhancer, okay? You're getting a shot that's enhancing your immune system. And in some cases, it's enhancing it in a bad way because people are obviously having side effects to it.
Right.
Now, once again, I don't know if this has anything to do with Victor Richards' death whatsoever. I mean, for all we know, he could have had a stroke or something like that. I don't know what happened with Victor Richards. I will say this about Victor Richards. He had just posted, here's Lee Priest. He had just posted about 2 days ago, Kyle, pull that up on Facebook. He had just posted a thing about health and well-being and Sean Roden passing and how terrible it was and how upset he was. And to be honest with you, John, I didn't even recognize Victor. He lost a lot of weight. He actually looked really good. You see that? I'll put that up. Look at him. He looks great, doesn't he?
Yeah, wow.
And he posted, he was very saddened by the death of Sean Roden. And whenever I had Victor on, Victor always was talking about he was worried about our industry because people did risky stuff and people didn't really embrace their health. And, that was one of the reasons why he never competed, because he felt he was going to get sucked into that having to do more and more and more type of thing. And, I respected that about him. Obviously, he made a lot of money and he didn't, it was on his own terms, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Lee Priest, did you ever meet Victor Richards in person?
Yes, a couple of times at Gold's Gym, I did, yes.
What was
He was a unique character. Massive, freaky, but very, very unique. Depending what day you caught Victor on, depending what mood he was in, he was very unique.
Yeah, my words exactly.
Was he more outspoken than you were? If he would have stayed in the IFBB, would he have gotten banned more than you?
I think he would have, yeah. Yeah, he would have been banned. He was very, like I said, I don't know if he's outspoken, but he was very set in his ways. He's one of those guys, if he had an opinion, you'd know about it, or if he didn't like you, you'd know about it. So he wouldn't just keep things bottled inside. No, he'll just go off at anything, even anything randomly if he didn't like it. You might see someone in the gym sometimes and be like, oh, look what that idiot's doing. He'd probably be the guy to be like, you fucking idiot, what are you doing? He was that type of person where you know it, like I said, if he didn't like you or something. So is this like Iron Rage all in one show today, is it?
I don't know. Depends how much raging you're going to do. I watched your Instagram post you put up the other day, and I was actually it resonated with me, but I was also at the same time cringing as I was listening to it.
Okay. Let's give Lee 3 minutes. Don't interrupt. And before I say this, I want to say to my fans, I love you all. This could be the last RX show I do today. So, but I shall start off with a fuck you, the IFBB. And I'm going to stick by that when it comes to Sean Roden. They have a big hand in killing him with stopping doing what he did. And this whole fucking, when they put up their condolences, get fucked. You didn't care when he was alive. You didn't treat him like he was fucking innocent. You treat him like he was guilty. And as for Sean Ray, well, Dave, this footballer, Cristiano Ronaldo, there's been Kobe Bryant, there's been tons of professional athletes that have been accused and were allowed to keep fucking playing. And for the IFBB to say, well, he was our friend and this and that, we knew him. Well, if you knew him, you knew he wouldn't have done that. So give him the benefit of doubt, let him compete. If he's found guilty, if he won a title, take it off him. But here's the IFBB, they come along, and I've said it before, you athletes, what the fuck are you doing? The IFBB needs you. You don't need them. Let's just say the IFBB folded tomorrow. You don't think of Jake Wood, people from Dubai, Kuwait, some promoter out there wouldn't pick up the ball and run with it? You don't need a fucking organisation. All you need is a promoter. Say if a promoter come along today like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and them, they said, we're putting on 6 shows and each show is going to have a guaranteed $500,000 purse. Who wouldn't go to that show? What does the IFBB mean? Nothing. Here you got these pack of wankers that run the IFBB who sit back, make money off the athletes' blood, sweat and tears. Without the athletes, there is no IFBB. Yes, the IFBB gives you this platform to compete. Okay, that's great. But yet to compete, you got to pay every year for your pro card. You're not under contract. So when I got suspended, I got suspended for competing in the PDI. Why? Because I did an IFBB show. Hey, I'm still in shape. I can make money over here. I used to race NHRA. I paid for my card for the race here, but I could race IHRA because I wasn't under contract. We're not under contract with the IFBB. What's it say? Independent contractors. So, but like, if a plumber come to your house, Dave, you're going to say, well, excuse me, you can't go do the plumbing on my fucking neighbour's house because you're here doing my house and I don't want you to go anywhere else. You just got to stay with me. Look, if the IFBB said, Lee, or anyone, here's a contract, we're going to pay you $200,000 a year, $500,000 a year to be with us, like the NFL. They have teams that pay them these fucking money to stay with them. So the IFBB, it's like fucking pathetic the way they go on. Now they all want to come out like, oh, we're very sorry, we're very sorry. And as a paying member of the IFBB, you pros, how many members are there, by the way? Thousands? Okay, that's a nice meal ticket. Then promoters have to pay sanction fees. Why? I don't know. So you have these people that sit back there. Look, Jim Mannion's a nice guy, sure, but now he's passed the reins to his grandson. Why don't the athletes get a vote on who runs the organisation and who's in charge and shit like that? They say they care. Well, we can't have someone that's been accused of rape. Why not? You got fucking drug abusers competing. You got other felons competing. You got every athlete taking banned fucking substances, steroids, which in the IFBB rule book says you can't fucking take. So let's just turn the cheek. We won't fucking pay attention to that. And then you wonder why they die. Put these mass monsters first. You could fucking control the way the sport goes by the way you fucking judge, but they fucking don't. So I just want to say, fuck the IFBB and fuck Sean Ray for bringing up he was a drug addict. I remember 2 years ago, Sean Ray said, Lee Priest is living on the street. He's a drug user. Sean Ray, don't throw fucking stones. How many times did you visit your mum when she was in jail for fucking selling cocaine, you little motherfucker?
Didn't Sean Ray fail a drug test and lose a title?
Yeah. Sean Ray failed a fucking brain test and life test. That cunt's he's had his more dicks in a fucking hole than a fucking rabbit. That cunt, he's all Christian married man. Go get fucked. And where's my race card? I got a race card and my white privilege card I got off the Hodgkins. Where the fuck's that? Because, I was going to say, if I had a choice to be a piece of shit, dog shit and Sean Ray, I'd be dog shit. Because it turns white in fucking 3 days. Fuck Sean Ray.
I'm sure Victor Richards must be channeling Lee Priest. I think he is basically taking over Lee Priest's body. I don't even know if Lee Priest is in his body anymore. I think Victor Richards' spirit is in there.
I was just sitting here listening to that, and I'm thinking, this is Victor talking.
Yeah, Victor Richards is saying the same thing.
He's coming to me. Thanks, Victor. Thank you. Now leave the body.
Lee's a lot more articulate, I think, and forthright. It would have taken an hour for Victor to tell us the same thing.
Yeah, Victor would have taken his time with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true, though. It was all I said, because I did say it on my Instagram if anyone wants to see me really go off. But it's true. How can the IFBB not take any hand in this? Because, like you said, we know stress is the biggest killer. And you're taking away the guy's livelihood, just having that hanging over your head. Yes, he goes to these contests because he's that type of person. He supports everybody. He's there helping people still. But deep down, that's got to fucking eat away at you. And then, like I said, for all these people who said, oh, here's our friend, and then you turn your back on him, innocent to proven guilty. He should have been allowed to get up there and compete. It's like, you got to remember, this is bodybuilding. This ain't NFL. Like I said, the NFL has had accusers, soccer players, and those sports are on fucking TV. Do you think if Sean Ray fuck that cunt. Do you think if Sean Roden had done the Olympia, MSNBC, that would have been, accused rapist competed at the Mr. Olympia on the weekend? No one fucking knows because no one cares about fucking bodybuilding. The only one that cares about bodybuilding are the Manions and those people because they fucking make money off everyone fucking dying. Then let's put up a condolence thing online, but, let's turn the comments off because we know we're fucking assholes. We don't want to cop the flack if we leave the comments section on.
You know what the truth is? I believe that if we were not in the social media era right now, if there was no Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff, I bet you Sean wouldn't have been suspended. Probably the whole allegations might not have even been covered more than a couple sentences, right, John? In maybe a newspaper or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And that would have been the end of it, and we would never even know what was going on because I think a lot of people didn't even know that the trial hadn't even taken place yet.
Well, he shouldn't have even been suspended because Sean's been around the IFBB and NPC for how many years? How many of these people know the real Sean Roden?
Right.
And if you had known the real Sean Roden, that accusation wouldn't have even been on your mind. Yes, it's an accusation, but I take it with a grain of salt till you prove it guilty. So I'm not saying the girl's lying, but I'm not saying she's telling the truth, because if you know Sean Roden, you're going to take his word. If you've known him for years and years and years, that's just something you can't even imagine him doing. So there's IFBB and Demanius and everybody else that knew that Sean. How the fuck can you turn your back on him when you know the real person?
Right. The problem was that I think they felt, oh, you know what, he'll miss the Olympia, and then in 6 months he'll be back, and if he beats the charges, he'll be competing. I don't think anyone anticipated COVID and then this whole delay of 2 years. So there should
what
I'm saying, Lee, is they should have made another ruling. Hey, you know what? Because this thing is being delayed so much, we're going to allow him to compete. And then whatever happens once this trial comes down, which is something that obviously is being delayed for whatever reasons, we can deal with it. So I think the initial response was maybe okay, but then it should have been recalled once the fact that
let's just say to 6 months. Okay, let's just say, playing devil's advocate, they want to take the mighty high road. Okay, let's just put him to the side in case. Well, after the 6 months, 12 months is up, and we go on another year, and nothing's come forward. They should have said, you know what, 12 months he sat on the sidelines, that's enough. He can come back and fucking compete.
100%.
They shouldn't have fucking kept him out there all that time and acting like, they're his friend and all this sort of bullshit. Then they put up their, like I said, the condolences. And I watched that show. I just started watching it when I was getting ready with Guy and all them. When I could see Guy saying, because his hands are shaking, Guy, do us all a favour, punch that motherfucker in the mouth. But make sure you got a good lawyer, because you know that fucker's going to sue you. So for a second then, when I saw Vic Richards had passed, I looked really quick. I thought it was Sean Rowe, thinking, fucking great. I wasn't fucking Victor Richards. It's like, as they say, only the good ones generally die, and fucking that cunt's going to live to his 90s, Sean Ray, I'm sure. But someone's going to wipe him out before then. Yeah, but they should have brought him back long ago. And like I said, the athletes do need to get a fucking union together. It's like I said, the IFBB, all they do is just give you this platform to go and win money. You've still got to train your ass off. You got to do the illegal drugs that they say you shouldn't do. It's in their rule book, because, we don't want this sport to look bad. We've got to keep this sport all fucking clean looking. How many people did we used to see at these after parties? Popping pills, laying on the floor, fucking twitching, pissing themselves, fucking people going to other people's rooms. And we know this. We've all known it. Even John knows. Promoters, judges, they've been sleeping with fucking competitors. But this wholesome sport, we've got to lock a good guy like Sean Roden out because of a fucking accusation. But yet, all this other shit.
What you're saying is, in other words, you have no problem with what goes on in the sport, but don't be a hypocrite, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And that's what they're doing. Because look at this sport. This ain't a clean fucking sport when it comes to anything. Yes, the training side and eating clean, and that's healthy. But when you get to the extreme competing side, what it takes to be a pro, it ain't fucking healthy.
You know what, Lee? Isn't that today's society? It's so hypocritical. You think the rock industry and the music industry is better, and they're probably more drug addicts than that. But as soon as someone does something wrong in the public eye, cancel them. That's the society we live in.
Except for one thing. In bodybuilding, the drugs are absolutely necessary.
So in music too? Are you kidding me?
That's debatable. I mean, that's and there's no visual confirmation of that. There is in bodybuilding. Yeah, right. Lee is 100% right. This instance with Sean Roden is going to live in bodybuilding forever as one of the biggest black eyes that ever gave itself, because he is absolutely right. Keeping him out because of the potential optics it represented was one of the most hypocritical things this industry has ever done.
Because like you guys said, it wouldn't have mattered. No one would have cared if he would. There would have been 5 people that would have complained, and that would have been it.
And the thing is, we're giving in.
And if he's guilty, like you said, Lee, let him go to jail then. I mean, it was not like he was going to get out of it. He was still going to have to go to trial and face the charges. And if he was found guilty, he was going to go to prison. So what was going to, justice would have been served anyway.
In any other scenario, being out on bail even does not preclude you from pursuing your livelihood.
Right.
Okay, and because you are innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
So the IFBB comes along and says, Here's a guy accused of a crime. Let's ban him from competing just because he's accused. Because why? Because the rest of the motherfuckers are choir boys in white robes? Yeah. Because no, it was absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. And if you could go so far as to say it's played a hand in what happened to him.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think it contributed? I mean, Chris Aceto absolutely thinks it contributed to his death. I'm sure the stress of it did.
How could you rule it out?
Yeah. No, the stress of it absolutely probably
absolutely
did. But combined with the other factors that we just discussed, obviously.
Right.
Well, too, you got to think too. Yes, just that accusation is alone. But imagine, say, you had like a brother or someone, a close friend that you've known all your life, and then that person doubts you. Even having your good friends turn their backs on you, some of them, and have people doubt you. You're like, this is me, you know the real me. How could you even contemplate this fucking accusation, which a lot of people did to him? So even that's got to fucking hurt. I know when I tell the truth all the time and someone accuses me of lying, it fucking hurts me. And it's not anywhere near like an accusation like Sean had over his head. So for all these so-called friends and people that were his friends, that's why the athletes need to look. This could happen to any of you. The IFBB, sadly, they can go to shows and promote or shake your hand and this and that. Or here's a nice guy. Yes, we love Jim and this and that. You're only dollar signs to them. I said, you're like fucking cattle. One cattle gets slaughtered. They don't fucking care. They get another fucking cattle.
But you know what, Lee? Imagine you're running a business, okay? And the IFBB is a business, right? And your business now is potentially in jeopardy of a black eye being put on it. Look, and bodybuilding is already scrutinized, right, because of the drug.
A black eye?
Just listen. So you got a guy, Jim Mannion, who loves bodybuilding. He's a bodybuilder himself. He likes Sean Roden. They're friends. They talk on the phone. But yet, he's in a position where, am I going to lose my business? Am I going to have like this women's group's coming after my business? Are they going to shut me down? There's got to be a fear.
And that's bullshit.
I don't own the IFBB. You don't own the NPC. We don't own these organizations. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, there has to be some semblance of this guy has given his life to the sport. You know what? Give him the benefit of the doubt and let him compete until proven guilty. I understand, but I understand both sides.
Yeah. No, I don't, because as an owner of that business, you don't have to bow down to the cancel culture. You can turn to those crazy fucking women that get up in arms, even if a movie about fat women comes out and say, listen, it's an act. Yes, you fucking can.
They're firing people from television shows, guys that have been working,
women that have been
on these shows for 20 years, and they're canceling them. How is that possible, Lee?
Because these people are cowering down to these fuckwits. And
no, they're not. They're saying something on TV, and then the next thing they know, they're off TV.
Because the powers that be kick them off. They could say, listen, what Chappelle said's a joke. If you can't get it's a joke, fuck you, that's your problem.
That's the society we're living in. We're in a cancel culture.
Because we made it. We created that society.
Why do you think you've been banned Why do you think you've been banned from Instagram 40 times? Because you're on a list. You're on the blacklist.
Exactly.
Every time you say the wrong thing, they ban you.
But that doesn't bother me because that's not.
I know, but you don't own Instagram. You don't own Facebook. They're getting rid of it. They don't want anything that's going to rattle the public consensus.
Like I said, this is bodybuilding.
Except all those guys, the hierarchy, the IFBB, the NPC, all they always do is preach loyalty. We want loyalty, right? And then they turn around. Here's your chance to give some loyalty back to Sean Roden. And do they do it? No. So they're fucking. It's hypocrite.
They're protecting their business, and that I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right. I understand where they're coming from. That's all I'm saying.
I can understand. I can understand it too, but that doesn't mean it's right. So.
How can you protect a business that promotes fucking heavily drug use that we know what does to people when we know that steroids could be a cause of these people dropping dead?
You don't have to take steroids and compete if you don't want to. You do that by your own choice.
Yeah, but that's a cop out because we know in the pros you have to. But if we're going to stick to their fucking rule book, in their rule book it says you can't take it, stick to the rule book. Ban every athlete then. But as I said, the athletes do not need the IFBB. If the IFBB folded tomorrow and Jim said, "Look, I've got enough money, I can cancel it."
Right.
Jake Wood, anybody would come along and pick up the torch and run with it. Like I said, you get a promoter. Say Wayne DeMille come along again and had all these sponsors. You put on a show. Why do you need IFBB? Why do you need NABBA? You don't need any organisation.
Well, how come no one's doing it then?
promoter.
How come no one's putting up this? Why isn't anyone able to pull the money in that the IFBB
can't
does?
go anywhere. Because the athletes can't go anywhere, because if you go anywhere else, they'll stick
you know,
your head out.
there's no other options, Lee. There's no options. So
exactly, and why is that? Because the IFBB killed off every other option there was.
They didn't kill it off. It's business. Why is the WWE the most successful wrestling organization?
The WBF come along, and what happened? We'd have turned a light on that, saying these athletes use steroids, and because it was connected to the wrestling, the media went after all this steroid use, and what's his name?
That's how businesses compete. I'm not saying I agree, Lee. I'm saying I understand business, you know. And if I own a business, I'm going to protect my business. You know, that's what people do.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
By suspending athletes.
I am completely disagree with that, Dave.
Okay. I didn't say it's right. I said I understand what they're doing.
You can't ban what makes you money. Okay, so the net effect of getting rid of Sean Ray was not. I mean, Sean Roden. Fuck that cunt. Then was
well said.
Getting rid of Sean Roden did not have a net positive effect on the business model of the IFBB. It did not. So you can't go into business expecting I'm never going to get a black eye. Nothing bad is ever going to happen. It's going to be rainbows and unicorns every fucking day. Doesn't work like that. There's going to be some bad shit that happens, and what you got to do is you got to weigh the pros and the cons and do the right thing, because the public who pays you is going to pay attention to what the right thing is. And I guarantee you that more people believed that banning Sean Roden was not the right thing to do.
This blew up because Sean died. Had Sean not died, and his trial took place, whatever, in January, and he was cleared, and he got back in the IFBB, people would be mad that he missed those 2 years, but they would forget about it. Okay, we know that. But if the fact that he died and never got to come back and compete, because let's face it, he could have gone to Raphael's place, organization over there if he wanted to. He purposely didn't, because he didn't want to put a black eye on the Mr. Olympia title that he held. So, in essence, his death is what is bringing this whole thing to light, so to speak. Really? I mean, right? I mean, if he would have been back in the IFBB in 6 months, we would have been no one would be even talking about this right now.
Which he should have been. Which he should have been. He should have been back in the IFBB. So it just comes to show you, the other athletes, the IFBB does not give a stuff about you. Plain and simple. I've said it before. You're pieces of meat to them. One dies, they go by, find another piece of cattle and bring in. That's all it is. Yeah, they can act like your friend when you see him. Like I said before, I've heard them make fun. The worst thing I ever heard was when that tape recorder was hidden near the judge's table and Louis made his comeback, and the shit they said about Louis, putting him down, talking bad about him, saying he's stupid, this and that, look at him making fun of him, just shows you what they really think of you. To these people that run these shows, maybe not all of them, but I'd say 90% of the ones I heard, because trust me, I would hear back and forth what was going on when I was kicking up a stink all the time. It's like they think we're idiots, and they go, look at these guys, they're idiots, killing themselves doing this. They're laughing at you, but yet they're reaping the rewards from you killing yourself, making money off your back. So it's just fucking ridiculous. That's why the athletes do need a union, because without you, I've said it, there is no IFBB. If like I said, I stood up, yes, let's suspend Lee. Even Wayne told me to my face, he goes, Lee, do you know what I do, why I do? He goes, because you might say something, Lee, and you might say the truth. You might say there's politics, but guess what? I can suspend you, and then the other 100 guys, they do what I say. And when they see I suspend you, they're too scared to do anything. But I said, if we all stood together, what could they do? Suspend us all? You suspend every athlete. What show are you going to put on if you got no athletes? So, yes, there needs to be give and take. I'm not saying athletes should just demand this and demand that, but there's got to be more give and take. They need to listen to the athletes more.
The greatest irony in all of that, Lee, is the fact that the IFBB was started because of the dissension of the athletes with the AAU. So it was actually backstage at a show when Ben said, you know, I guess what happened was they used to hold bodybuilding contests after the weightlifting competitions, and the AAU was getting ready to, to bring the bodybuilders on after the weightlifting, and there was some conflict, and then Ben and Joe were backstage, and they said, "Fuck it, we don't need them. Let's get together. Let's get the bodybuilders together. We'll make our own organization and fuck the AAU." It's exactly what they did.
Uh-huh.
And if God forbid anybody else tries to do the same thing.
Well, I think, like I said, if the PDI had kept going, I think that would have been a good thing if Wayne's cancer hadn't come back, because you have to remember, guys are scared to make that move. I'm like I said, I've had money, I've had no money. I've gone from, $12,000 a month contracts down to $3,000 a month. It doesn't bother me because I came from a family with stepfather's a coal miner, so I know what it's like to be poor. So getting a normal job didn't bother me. I figured, you know what? I get suspended, I lose contracts, I can still train, I get a normal job. But a lot of athletes are so scared to make that move and stand up. That's why when the PDI started, it's like everyone sat back. It's like, let's just watch to see what happens. If that had kept going and it had kept increasing, and athletes knew every year there was going to be a definite 6-7 shows with great prize money, they would have got a lot more athletes. But no one's ready to make that move. Say a new organization.
Lee, the problem is that everyone wants to compete in the best organization for the Mr. Olympia title, and that's what it amounts to.
It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best to begin with. It has to start somewhere. Who's to say if the Rock started a new organization in 10 years' time, that could be the best?
No, I understand what you're saying, but I think rather than overthrow the government, so to speak, there's a way to communicate, and if enough people, like we're doing now, are voicing their dissension, then rules change. Then things change.
Well,
that's how it evolves. That's how an organization improves and a business improves.
That's why I've always said, when the PDI started up, how does it hurt the IFBB? Because you have an IFBB show, say, in May, and then the following month in June, when there's no IFBB shows, this organization has a contest on. Let people compete. Let them make money, because they might not be making money in the IFBB. They might be able to do it over here. And I said, look, competitors will go where they feel treated the best, where they get good money, where they get this. So there could be 10 organizations. The best will rise to the top. But what harm is it in letting these athletes do what they do for a living and make extra money? If you don't have contests on, let them go compete there. You're not losing anything. It's like I did the PDI, like I did the PDI, I did the IFBB.